Hello, this is Dr. Dan Kahinka. Today, as part of the Servant Leadership 2.0 training and development program, we will be discussing the core value of being selfless as a servant leader. 5 specific behaviors associated with being selfless include humility. An example of that would be I gave others credit for success or did not claim credit for team success. So in other words, when there is some success, you're more than willing to give others credit for it. You don't feel compelled to take that credit yourself. If there's a success in a team, for example, you also give others credit for that, even if you're perhaps a leader, the team leader. Also, to be willing. Willingness is something that people oftentimes, they may have great values. They may have great intentions to do different things. However, they're not willing to take that step to do it. So to be willing means, for example, to be willing to do things that others were simply unwilling to do. Also, you must be an effective listener to exhibit selfless behavior. You care more about others, so you're willing to listen to them rather than yourself speaking and putting your own thoughts and ideas first. So in other words, I listened carefully to others, regardless of distractions or being busy. So when you're busy, when you have life's distractions in front of you and all sorts of things going on that you feel compelled to do, you are still willing to listen to others. Also being considerate, which I just described to some degree an example of being considerate, where you are more concerned about others than yourself. And then finally, simply being caring of others, where you practice empathy and put the needs of others before your own. Let's look at some specific examples. So once again, humility, giving others credit for success and not taking the credit for what the team does. General Ulysses S. Grant was known to be a very humble leader, even though he was a great general. He was oftentimes very close to his followers. He even slept on the ground. He practiced humility rather than perhaps sleeping in a more excessive type of environment, maybe a fancier tent or home or whatever might be handy. Instead, during times of war, he slept on the ground right alongside his fellow troops. He wore a private's jacket, which rather than having more glamorous outfit as a general, he was perfectly fine with that. And he also was willing to give others credit, and when something bad happened, he would take the blame for it. So great example of humility. Example for willingness, of course, so Abraham Lincoln, an amazing example of willingness, where he could have simply continued along in his successful law practice. He chose to serve the public, and as a servant, he was willing to do some things that were, as we now know, rather amazing, that led to, for instance, not just a country coming together, but also it led to abolition and dissolving slavery within America. On a more local type of and more contemporary example, we have Specialist Brandel and Stennett, a great story of 2 individuals that were in the Kentucky National Guard. They were driving along and noticed a car in some floodwaters, and they noticed someone struggling in there. They jumped into the floodwaters. Perfectly, a great example of selfless behavior. They put their lives at risk and ended up saving the life of an 87-year-old gentleman pictured here. That's selfless behavior. And of course, you don't have to be as dramatic in your actions as an Abraham Lincoln or even saving someone's life. Selfless behavior can take on many very simple forms every single day. Of course, being an effective listener, where you listen carefully to others regardless of any distractions and being busy. Methods that being an effective listener may include is, of course, being willing. Once again, willingness, part of selfless behavior, but being willing to take the time to listen to others carefully, focusing on the individual, focusing on that person that's talking, and trying to put those life's distractions off to the side and pay full attention to them. And then also consider if you do begin to start talking, you do begin to respond to them, why is that? Why are you doing that? Are you doing that for your own benefit or the benefit of them? So perhaps just simply listen. Focus on that listening. Body language as well is very important to be an effective listener, whether it be looking at the individual in their eyes, although some cultures maybe that's not acceptable, but just however you do that, paying attention to them, not looking around and just giving the impression of being distracted. Asking follow-up questions, of course. Active listening, where you are demonstrating that you're truly listening to someone and you want clarification on what they're saying just to make sure you understand it. And by repeating that content of what they said, it definitely demonstrates that you are caring about them and you're exhibiting selfless behavior. Some of the outcomes of selfless behavior, specifically being an effective listener, research is showing that research has revealed that it shows respect for others. People are make more informed decisions. It improves conflict resolution. It also fosters innovation and can very simply reduce stress among team members and burnout. And it makes an individual just frankly more likable. Think about the people in your life that were some of the best people that you enjoyed talking to. Who were they? Well, they're individuals that were just simply willing to listen to you. And those are some of the favorite people probably that you've enjoyed being around. Being considerate can also take many different forms. Being considerate is being more concerned about others than yourself. Florence Nightingale was a great historic example of someone that was considerate of others, and even though she came from a wealthy family, she decided to serve others as a nurse. And if you're not familiar with her story, I encourage you to look it up. But she was very influential, made significant strides in the area of nursing, and just as an individual that was considerate, put others first and foremost before herself. She made many great contributions to individuals and society as a whole. And then, of course, being caring of others. To be selfless, you care about others, you practice empathy, put the needs of others before your own. One really interesting example that I often tell people is the story of Dr. Michael Shannon, who, when a child was born, he perhaps not like perhaps doctors these days that are willing to stick around the clock. There are obviously many great doctors, but this individual, 24 hours spent time with a premature child, really cared about that individual and saved that child's life. And then the best part of the story is that 30 years later, that same doctor was in a burning vehicle, and that same child, Chris Trokey, ended up saving his life. So it's just an amazing story. Granted, we may not have that type of amazing story in our life when we're caring for others, but it doesn't matter. Every individual counts. Every individual matters. And we can, in many different ways on a daily basis, show how we care for others. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed this brief video of how to exhibit selfless behavior as a servant leader.